Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. So, we got Biden's State of the Union address, and it's kind of divided. People are divided on it in equal ways. We have biased far left Democrats that say Biden did a great job. Great job. He proved to the country that he's mentally with it, and that Donald Trump can't even remember his wife's name. How hypocritical. We know that the media is notorious for editing media rally footage and Trump rallies to make it look that Donald Trump is saying something scandalous or saying something that is a part of taboo, or most importantly, make himself look bad in some way. We know that they do this, and they don't just do this to Donald Trump. When Donald Trump is done with his upcoming 4 years in office, guess what's going to happen? They're going to go after the next Republican guy. They are doing this with everybody. And that's how democratic the Democratic Party is. Like, then they go, democracy's on the line. Really? Before you complain about democracy, why don't you look at yourself and say, what am I doing? How am I treating Trump? Is that democratic? You've been treating this man like garbage since 2016. Like 2015, 2014, everyone loved Trump. You love Trump. And then 2015, you hate him. You hate Trump. And you call him a fascist. Really? All because he's running on the opposite end of your party. What a baby you are. What a complete little toddler. But anyway, I want to talk about Biden's State of the Union address. So it looks like Biden wasn't so sleepy after all. You can completely tell they totally jacked this clown up on coke and crack. Like, I don't know what they gave him, but he was jacked up. So much that he was yelling through the microphone. He probably made the biggest record. 2024 State of the Union address, the most loudest address by every president. Let's see. We can Google that. Which U.S. And if it's not, I would not be surprised if it wasn't 2024 being the loudest. But if it is, well, there you go. But let's see. Which State of the Union address was the loudest? And this is a weird question to ask to Google. But yeah, basically, Google is not the most sure. They're saying, like, look at CNBC is saying Biden electrifies Democrats. I think it was confusing half the American people at home. Spars with Republicans in Fury State of the Union address. I think he was like that. He took advantage of that because he knows that no one's going to show up at his petty little rallies. They're going to listen to an old man shout and fade away in his own brain. Really? This either he's shouting in a mic because he's jacked up and high on whatever, or he is totally just pretty much. It's like he's totally out of it. He's so tired. He is just zoned out, and he is completely lost. So, yes, I think that is pretty much how it pretty much goes. And of course, we have Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, do I think Marjorie Taylor Greene was right for screaming in the middle of the State of the Union address? No, obviously not. To be honest, I will, but I'm not going to go after her on it. For one thing, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene pointed out a very important thing. You know, Joe Biden never once mentioned Laken Riley in his campaign speech. Never once. Never once. I'm calling it a campaign speech. I'm going to call it for what it is. It's a campaign speech. 2024 is pretty much the only year. Well, 2021, technically, we didn't gather into the Congress room, as you know, the House of the Congress Hall, as you know, and listen to the president because of COVID, whatever. But yeah, um, basically, when it comes to 2024, though, this was probably the most inappropriate, informal State of the Union address. Like, has anyone shouted and squealed in the microphone during the State of the Union? No, it's supposed to be an honorary, important event, an event of unity. And we're supposed to come together, Democrats and Republicans. Together, we're supposed to say, hey, you know what? Let's the world is at an evil place. It should be like FDR's famous State of the Union address. This day shall live in infamy. Democrats and Republicans stood up and applauded him. FDR didn't go and complain why Republicans kept striking down his New Deal motives and his New Deal laws. No, because FDR prioritized. The Japanese just attacked Pearl Harbor. FDR, and I'm calling it a State of the Union because I don't know if this was the actual legitimate State of the Union address of 1942, but FDR, I think it was December 8th. It hadn't been the State of the Union address. It shouldn't have, but he delivered this great speech, and he went off. But the few minutes of the speech, as you know, were probably the most famous. Tonight, this day shall live in infamy. That is the most famous words, and this is a Democrat I'm talking about. So yeah, I don't like FDR. He's not my favorite. I think he's too far left for our country, and most Americans today, they're divided. You have both left-wingers and right-wingers kind of divided about him. Conservatives will say, you know what, I don't like how his New Deal, I think his New Deal did a lot of destruction. And it kind of did, because look at the taxes that is probably the tax system today in America is horrible, and it's because of the New Deal. But then there's a lot of Democrats that whine and cry because FDR put the Japanese in the internment camps. And as we know, that is truly injustice. We can say, yes, that was injustice. But to this day, the FDR administration has apologized, and we have learned from it, and the Democrats still don't want to move on. They still want to rage over it. So now let's compare FDR's very good State of the Union address to Biden's address. And have you not seen the trend? 2021 all the way to 2024, we've noticed that Joe Biden has always brought up the insurrection. He's not bringing it up himself. The Democrats are telling him to bring it up. Why? Because Democrats are taking advantage to basically, everyone is watching around the United States. It's time to remind everyone what the country thinks, because believe it or not, it's like Democrats like to think people forget about January 6th. People haven't forgot about January 6th. People don't want to think about it again because that's how horrific that day was. Joe Biden says, oh, horrific event, horrific, that horrible day. Usually horrible days and horrific trauma want to be forgotten about. There's a lot of 9/11 survivors that don't want to talk about 9/11. They hate September 11th, 2001. And they ever, with a great understanding, they went through a horrible event, a horrific event that nobody should have went through. So they hate September 11th, and they spend that day praying for that day to end because they hate being reminded of the trauma. Imagine January 6th. We're comparing January 6th to September 11th, and the Democrats want January 6th to be a September 11th. This is all This is what I'm talking about. Democrats love January 6th and they want to bring it up. And the American people are like, no. Why? It's not, no, we recognize, not, I would say strongly, 9/11 was the most traumatic event for the American people in American history. Confidently, January 6th doesn't stand a chance. I describe January 6th as an event gone wrong. An event gone wrong. And once again, we were unprepared to see what was going to happen. People got riled up, and one person started charging through the Capitol. Next thing you know, everyone started darting to the Capitol. That sort of stuff happens. But the Democrats pointing to Trump, they take his words out of context like they always do. I would not be surprised if they'd taken his speech before the insurrection out of context. Not surprised at all. But this is what they've been doing for 8 years. 8 years! A president for a 2-year term. 8 years. And Trump's not even president now, and they're still doing it. It's annoying. And American people want to stop. Like, seriously. Seriously. No, I don't like bringing up January 6th. This isn't a January 6th talk. But the point is, we got to acknowledge this is the 4th time Joe Biden brought up January 6th in a State of the Union address. We recognize that he didn't do it. Joe Biden doesn't have the capability to write his own speech. The Democrats write the speech for him. Joe Biden can read. He's not that dumb. He can read. And if he can't read, they really have a problem. They probably would enact the 25th Amendment. But guess what? The point is, the Democrats do this every single State of the Union address. They equip January 6th because it's in their favor, and they go bombarding a ballistic attack on half of the people in the room. That is not what the State of the Union address is meant for. And I wish a lot of Americans would call that out. The media, they're like, oh, good job, Joe, good job. It's not a campaign speech. And really, it's very informal and disrespectful to go on a ballistic attack and make a State of the Union address political. Now, yes, a State of the Union address is sort of a pat on the shoulder. I'm doing a good job. But it's also a, hey, look at the fact. Trump didn't, in his 2020 address, Trump never once mentioned impeachment. Never once. He never fired aim at the people that impeached him. Donald Trump was following the tradition of, once again, we come together in a room and come together as a nation, together, and united, and for 1 hour, for at least 1 hour, we do identify as Americans, and we plan out the year together. Donald Trump, everyone was watching TV. He could have went on a ballistic attack on on the Democratic House of Representatives, controlled by the Democrats, the House Democrats, for once again impeaching him over a bogus phone call. But he didn't. He planned out, once again, he acted out as a leader. That's how Republicans play the game. Democrats, corruptly stupid. Well, they don't care about unity. They don't want the country to unite. They love the country being divided. They know that it's in their favor when we're divided because they have the media. The media to control you. The majority of news networks are left-wing. Even most big tech companies are left-wing. The corporations are left-wing. They have everything in their favor. And when we are divided, that's when the Democrats get lots of power and lots of money. They don't want the country to be united because what happened when we were united? Republicans got to win some elections. Like, the country was united during the 80s, Reagan Revolution. The country was united during 9/11. Guess what? 2002 red wave. But guess what? We do admit that, guess what? The Democrats did have some hurrahs during that time too. But it's not about hurrahs. It's about all hurrahs. They want all the hurrahs. They want all the victories. Republicans, none. It's very scandalous. And I kind of took a deeper look into the State of the Union address. If you do not mind, I know there is a lot of people that say it's a campaign speech, yes, but I'm going to say more. I'm going to look in depth. Why did he do a campaign speech? Of course he's going to do a campaign speech. He's been doing campaign speeches in the State of the Union since 2021. So he's going to do a fourth one. This one more so because this is an election year. And we're finally recognizing this is a campaign sort of thing. It's always been a campaign speech for Joe Biden at the State of the Union. Always. All the time. Every time. And guess what? We're all human. And we get mad at Republicans or the opposing party for having booing last year, booing Biden, because Biden was once again creating a lie that House Republicans were going to shorten and cut down Social Security. Now he goes on a January 6th attack and won't even admit, doesn't even include Lincoln Riley. Marjorie Taylor Greene literally has to add that in the script, like literally. And then he goes and says Lincoln Riley. No, Lincoln Riley's a totally different person. Lincoln Riley, and if you mistake Lincoln Riley and Lincoln Riley, you obviously have not been thinking about this, and you're obviously not sorry for the family. Because if you are sorry for this family, you would know her daughter, and you would know her name, their daughter, you know their name, you would know the victim, and you'd be praying for that family and for that victim repeatedly. You wouldn't be naming. And otherwise, if it's honestly a dementia problem, then there you go. Joe Biden made a mistake. There you go. He did have cognitive problems. The Democrats saying, once again, electrifies Democrats. Well, yeah, you of course. I think Kamala Harris was definitely electrocuted. She kept going up and down, up and down, up and down. And can't you just chill and realize it's just propaganda? Of course, Kamala Harris is going to go up and down and clapping. It's his guy once again. And you would see half the room. Everyone that stood up, a majority of the time, were Democrats, because never once has Joe Biden said anything that was in America's favor. Only in his favor. Only in his party's favor. This is what I'm talking about. Democrats rip the system. They take advantage of the power they have, and they make a propaganda speech to the whole entire country. Hopefully no one was watching, because that was not a State of the Union address. That was a State of the Democratic Party address. The State of the Democratic Party, the state of the situation in the government address. And hopefully Americans wake up and they say, wow, we were wrong. Like, we actually thought Democrats were going to fix things in 2020. They made things worse. They never even mentioned about the border. They won't even talk about Hamas, Afghanistan, Ukraine, economic turmoil. Most importantly, Biden's age. Biden could have said, I know that a lot of people have been concerned, but I will lead. He didn't even say that. He won't even say, I know people are concerned about my age, but I am capable of lead. the State of the Union is a time to kind of address to the nation on why Americans are worried and kind of soothe Americans' worries and pain. But of course, Democrats want to soothe their pain and soothe the pain for Democrats at home. So yeah, interesting State of the Union address. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.